The elder, to the chosen lady and her children, whom I love in truth, and not only I, but also all who know the truth, for the sake of the truth which abides in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace will be with us, from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father, in truth and love. I was very glad to find some of your children walking in truth, just as we have received commandment to do from the Father. Now I ask you, lady, not as though I were writing to you a new commandment, but the one which we have had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk according to his commandments. This is the commandment, just as you have heard from the beginning, that you should walk in it. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh. This is the deceiver and the Antichrist. Watch yourselves, that you do not lose what we have accomplished, but that you may receive a full reward. Anyone who goes too far and does not abide in the teaching of Christ does not have God. The one who abides in the teaching, he has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house, and do not give him a greeting. For the one who gives him a greeting participates in his evil deeds. Though I have many things to write to you, I do not want to do so with paper and pen, but I hope to come to you and speak face to face, so that your joy may be made full. The children of your chosen sister greet you. Good morning. It's November 11th, Monday, November 11th, 2019. This morning, we're looking at the second letter of John. It's a very short book. It's one chapter, 13 verses. And it's a very brief summary of really what John wrote in 1 John, which is that we're to love one another, and we're to watch out for those that deny that Jesus is God, that Jesus is the Christ, that he came in the flesh and dwelt among us, and that we're to not have any fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. That's a summary of this brief letter from John. Just a couple things of note. I read this morning that it seems that most commentators that I've looked at like 3 or 4. I was kind of curious as to what they thought about verse 1 and 13. Of the 3 or 4 commentators that I looked at on this briefly, they would say that this is John writing to a very specific woman and is referring to her literal children as he's writing this letter. But some commentators believe that this is a letter from John to a church, and is referring to this church as the chosen lady, and that the verse 13 there in his closing remark, the children of your chosen sister greet you, that he's referring to one church greeting this other church, a sister church greeting this chosen lady, this other church. And so whether it's John writing to a specific woman and her children or to a church, I don't really think that changes the meaning of this a whole lot, because these truths still remain, that we're to love one another, we're to walk in the truth. In verse 4, he says he was very glad to find some of her children walking in the truth. just as we have received the commandment to do from the Father. And so, as a father myself, I can tell you that it is very pleasing to me and encouraging to me when I see my children walking in the truth, when I see my children loving one another and being kind to one another, when I see my children, excuse me, I got a stopped up head this morning. When I see my children being kind to someone younger than them and smaller than them, including other children in their play, being respectful to other adults besides myself. When I see my children honoring their father and mother in those ways, that makes me happy. That's pleasing to me. It's good to see my children walking in the faith, trusting in Jesus. When I see my kids lifting their hands in worship, that's good. And John here is expressing that's pleasing to him as well when he sees that. One thing I wanted to point out also about this, we live in a land now, and I talked about this some yesterday at church. If we live in this land of tolerance where everyone's viewpoints are morally on the same playing field, everyone's beliefs and ethics, there's this moral relativism that exists where everybody's point is valid except for the Christian point. The Christian is automatically labeled hateful and bigoted and intolerant, and so the tolerance crowd does not have to associate with the Christian and include them in their realm of being tolerant to everyone, because what tolerance means is everyone but Christians. That's what it really means. And but what we see here in this small book is this truth that would just really rub much of our culture the wrong way. And that is the idea that there are some people that as Christians, there are some people that we just cannot fellowship with. Much of Christendom, much of the visible church nowadays, evangelicalism, looks very much like the world and has embraced this idea of come as you are, and not only come as you are, but stay as you are. It's this weak, no gospel message meant to simply draw people in and increase numbers and grow your church, get you a bigger building. And so that's kind of what the modern American church that's visible has embraced. You see a lot of Christians now actually jumping through hoops to be included in this, coexist tolerance crowd. And in doing so, they violate this principle here, which says this: anyone who goes too far and does not abide in the teaching of Christ does not have God. The one who abides in the teaching, he has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house, and do not give him a greeting. For the one who gives him a greeting participates in his evil deeds. And so this is a pretty exclusive position that the Apostle John is promoting here. It's this idea that, when God says that light should not fellowship with darkness, we're going to take that literally. And we are to take it literally. He is saying here clearly that if there's someone that denies Christ, if there's someone that is walking contrary to Christ and his teachings, and is, whether by their words or their actions, they're teaching something, that is clearly not of God, that we're not to have any We're not to have any dealings with this person. We're not to give them a greeting. We're not to participate in the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather to expose them. And this is difficult for us to do sometimes, isn't it? Because, again, we live in this moral relativism world where everyone's viewpoint is valid. And all one has to do is say, yes, I believe in Jesus. I'm a Christian. Judge not. And who are you to judge? And I love everyone. I mean, really, all someone has to do is say those 4 or 5 things. And instantly, you are supposed to accept them as being a Christian. Like those 5, if someone says those 5 things, you're supposed to just accept them as being a Christian. And so whatever comes after that, whether they actually fellowship with the saints or not, that's not important. Whether they ever read their Bible, that's not important. Whether, they might twist scripture and just abuse the scriptures endlessly, well, that's not important. They might be living in open sin, open rebellion against God, directly and actively contradicting his word on something like fornication or homosexuality or lying or stealing or hating your neighbor or murdering their babies in the womb. They might actually be doing those things. But so long as they say they love Jesus, that you're to judge not, that I love everybody, that yes, I believe in Jesus, and yes, I'm a Christian. As long as they say those 4 or 5 things, they are Christian in our world, in this land we live in. And you are supposed to accept it and just embrace them and just welcome them in without second guessing or without questioning anything. That's Christianity today, for the most part, in the visible church. And that is wicked. It is wicked. It is wrong. Are we to be fruit inspectors? Are we to question everybody? Kanye West right now has come out and he's put out this album and it says Jesus in there and Jesus is King and it's got some good stuff in it. All right. Are we supposed to just open arm embrace him without examining him? No. We need to examine people. We don't need to be fruit inspectors and every time someone stumbles be like, aha, see, I caught you. You said you're a Christian, but you did that, so therefore you're not a Christian. No, but we are to examine people. There is such thing as a profession of faith. It is tangible for us to look at Scripture and be able to see what it means to walk in the Spirit versus walking in the flesh. Look at Galatians. It talks about the fruits of the Spirit and the unfruitful works of the flesh. Those are evident. And so we have to use discernment. We have to use wisdom. We have to judge by the righteous standards that God has given us. Not only outsiders, but ourselves, our own hearts. We can be deceived. We can deceive ourselves into thinking that we're Christians. But this passage here, verses 10 and 11, tell us that those people that are denying Christ, we're to not even give them a greeting. We're not even to acknowledge them as far as any kind of fellowship or any kind of hand of welcoming. And that's kind of difficult to know. It's kind of difficult to do because there's so many in the visible church nowadays that say we just have to welcome everyone with open arms, come as you are, that everybody's reasoning and thinking on all these issues are equally valid, and it's just not true. What light does fellowship have with darkness? John closes this small letter talking about how he has many things to write to her. Whether it's, again, whether this is a specific lady that he's writing to, or a church, that he has many things to write to her, but he doesn't want to do so with paper and ink. He wants to come face to face. And we can learn something from that, because how many of us have relationships that have degenerated into the land of digital ink, right? And so everything is done via Facebook, text message, email, and there's never any face-to-face physical human contact with another person. Now, that doesn't mean that, text, Facebook, email, that these mediums of communication aren't legit, that they aren't important and useful, and that they don't have a place in our dialogue with others. They're absolutely useful, and they're tools that we should use. Just as I'm using this video this morning to communicate to my family and others that might be watching. But there's nothing that replaces that face-to-face physical human interaction, of being able to put your hand on someone and love them and comfort them and look them in the eyes and speak truth to one another. And so I want to encourage you to do that today. My wife and my children, I want to encourage you to put down the devices, to put down the laptop and the cell phones, and to look at one another in the face and to love one another like that. That takes work. That takes work, and it's a necessary thing that we must do. I pray you have a blessed day today. I love you all very much. We'll probably look at this chapter, this book, here again this evening. We'll try to glean some more wisdom and truth from it. Maybe we can read a commentary together regarding this book this evening. That might be beneficial for us. And I just pray you have a blessed day, and that you love one another, and that you walk in the truth. God bless you. Bye-bye.